to meet you.
Good to meet you. Are you a new guy?
I've been since the beginning of the year with VineyardWind.
But were you here early in the winter? Were you over here at the winter?
There
was another guy that was speaking.
Yeah, Matt Robertson does a lot of our environmental permitting work, and he was over here.
He was the guy.
Eric Stevens is the Chief Development Officer. He's been on island a few times.
All right.
Yeah, I trace back the long line of.
So why are you here on Nantucket right now?
A bunch of us are here, including actually Eric and Matt Robertson. Outreach efforts in general. We did an open house, office hours this afternoon downtown at the Shanty. We're in environmental permitting right now, and that's we have to get through that. But there aren't any perceived roadblocks. It's not, the federal government and state government as well really established, kind of a stakeholder-driven process that we're in at the moment. So we've applied, federally and for state permits. There's upwards of 25 permits involved, but they, in the wake of a previous offshore wind project that will remain nameless.
Oh no, we don't want to rename. I've got some questions. We're going to get into that.
The government really, stepped up to the plate and said we've got a zone, we've got to, put together a plan and a process to site this stuff. Having a situation where a developer points at a stretch of federal water and says, "That's where I want to."
So the state is kind of pushing you guys to do this, would you say?
I wouldn't say the state's pushing us to do it. They're permitting it. 83C, which is the offshore wind, the law which called for offshore wind to be brought into the Massachusetts grid, pushed offshore wind in general.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That was really the spark that has driven this latest process. VineyardWind was the sole awardee of a bid into that process for 800 megawatts, the first large-scale offshore.
From what I read, it looks like the utility companies are willing to pay the price that you guys are going to negotiate.
Yeah, so there was a lot of good discussion about favorable and affordable pricing. The governor had come out early on in the process. It was due to it being a competitive bidding thing. There were nobody, myself included, knew the actual price from the governor. So the governor said that we're going to get excellent pricing and I guess end of July.
But it's competitive. I mean, it's you guys are competing definitely.
Yeah. So DOER's analysis was that all things being equal, it's expected to result in some modest ratepayer savings, which would at the very least would keep it where it's at. Yeah. Right. Right. Well, maybe a little less. What we know is that electricity rates tended to go up from since the beginning.
They certainly have, and boy, are they expensive right now too.
Right, yeah, and it's
taken a big jump recently.
And it's exciting to find out that with the previous project kind of had some pretty high rates, and you can say one thing or another. Certainly, technology would have played a role in that.
Sure.
That project was conceived in 2000, I think. And
now the partnership, from what I read online, are you involved some way with a Danish company?
Yeah, so it's a 50-50 partnership. Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners is a 50% member. They're a Danish investment firm. They their main work is investing public employee pensions in Northern Europe into renewable energy projects. So they're very much a buy and hold company. This investment strategy is like long-term steady returns for retirees essentially.
And have they invested in other offshore wind farms in Europe?
Yes, and this is.
Have they been doing it for a while? Is that kind of
they are the part of the team there, and this gets to the edge of my expertise about constituency. There was part of the team there was involved with Dong Energy, which was a large Danish developer, and they
back in 2000. I took this camera and and we went over to Denmark.
Oh, really?
Did shows about offshore wind farm. Those guys from Cape Wind, when they first came on the scene. They went for a drive with me, just like you did.
Oh, cool.
The two Danish guys, when they first came here and announced that this is what they were hoping to do. Your position is you're just an outreach guy for public relations?
I'm manager of policy and development, or development policy. Sorry. So I do a lot of work with municipalities, local permitting. Some outreach efforts, some sort of media relations and that kind of thing. But do have a hand in the local aspect of permitting.
And when Cape Wind was trying to do their thing, which I was in favor of, I have to admit it.
Sure.
I also understand that the technology then wasn't there the way it is today, but thank God for the Europeans. They were the ones that said, we don't care right now, we're going to invest in this because we know it's going to benefit the world. And it's coming around.
Well, we're actually at this stage benefiting from a couple of decades of European experience.
Exactly.
And what's exciting about that is that there are thousands of turbines spinning off shores in Europe, and it's predictable. It's well understood technology, and the processes for installation and management are very well done, well put together. I mean, I think there's over 80.
And I'm sure that if Cape Wind I'm sure you've learned a lot from Cape Wind, number one. I mean, there must be a lot that you guys learned. Is Jim Gordon in any way associated with you, with your company?
No.
Do we know what he's doing?
I heard he lives in Florida.
Okay.
I used to work for Rob O'Leary. I met him once back in probably 2006 or something.
What'd you do with Rob?
I was a legislative aide there when I left. I left in 2010. I was his legislative director there.
So I look at those guys, and although they were up against a real political force, let's face it, that really wanted to stop. They didn't want to look at it. That was the bottom line. Half of those people are fertilizing their lawns. Okay, if they were really that concerned about environmental stuff, they would be walking the walk.
So full disclosure,
they didn't like the view.
I was a part of the opposition to Cape Wind.
Well, that's how I feel about it.
And I think there was I think there's a place to, there's a place for that argument that it was just a cosmetic issue.
Exactly.
But there were some business fundamentals that were very challenging.
Fair enough.
There was a lack of process. The other issue that I had,
what I have a problem with is that if we really need it, with what we're most likely going to have to deal with rising sea levels, I mean, to just say we'll never do anything there doesn't make sense to me, because the resource of wind is just incredible.
True. Well, so what the good news is, though, is that and this was one of the issues that I had with Cape Wind, as an opponent early on, was that it not being a replicable model, and the developer themselves saying this is the only place where we can really site this in the country. It's a piece of federal water that's buffered by lands on all sides.
Sure.
The good news is what we were doing back then, pointing south of the vineyard at that area, was saying that's the place where the future of offshore wind should be in this country. And now cut to 10 years later, and here we are. What's great about it is the replicability, the model that it can create, and what we can learn from that can inform us for future efforts. And it's understandable that people would be concerned about a one-off, but those nuanced arguments, I think, were lost in a lot of the bluster and and maybe even a lot of the opponents' rhetoric as well.
All right. Now, the permitting, where you're at, do you see any obstacles?
I mean, the permitting bar.
What would be?
I would say the permitting bar in Massachusetts, the permitting bar on the federal level is high, and as well it should be. It's comprehensive. It's wide ranging. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time. We've been at it for since before I was with the company. Some of our initial filings happened. Initial filings. Some of the more substantive filings began to come in December of last year. There at this point, and due to a lot of the groundwork that has been done for several years, and what kind of put VineyardWind ahead of competitors, and also gave a little bit more confidence. There's been a lot of survey work and a lot of ground truthing that's been done in advance. So there's not really any obstacle where we are losing sleep over. We think it would pose a significant threat to the project. But we go forward, eyes open, and have to address those.
Is financing all in place?
Yeah, so I don't.
There's no way this isn't going to happen if all the permits are approved.
I don't.
It's going to happen.
Right. I don't know the intricate details of the financing structure, but what I can say is that the partners that have come to the table, as I understand it, they won't be having to fish for capital, and they're not going to have to go sell this thing on Wall Street or anything like that, and that is. clearly a benefit, I think, for the public, because one of the issues that I think I thought one of the issues with Cape Wind was, if we don't have a financing structure that's comfortable, does this thing get half built and then it becomes a wind farm graveyard, and then we have that as the poster child for, and there was different
What are the
opinions on
chances
that.
of that? I mean, that's
Well,
pretty slim.
I don't know. I mean, again,
Did that ever happen in Europe?
well, no, but I don't think the Europeans pursued it in the same way that that project.
Well, how do
went
they
forward.
pursue it differently than we do?
Well, I mean, now it's obviously highly evolved. I'm not
Yeah,
sure about
yeah.
the nascence of those projects, but at least primarily, even the governmental structures associated with there's a much more federal system there.
And based on, I mean, getting back to environmental, because I think that's probably the most important.
Absolutely. Well, it's an environmentally purposed project,
Exactly.
and it's got to have a synergy with the
And the
environment.
fishing is like probably one of the higher.
Fishing is, I mean, so the major concerns and the things we work a lot on and have been working on, fisheries concerns and interests. Some of those have been addressed by the fact that a multi-year stakeholder process kind of mapped these areas out to minimize not only fisheries concerns, but also migratory birds, marine mammals, right whales.
Sure.
My father's actually a right whale biologist.
Oh,
so
if he is, has he been to Lubec, Maine? I have a house in Lubec,
I would be
Maine.
surprised if he hadn't been.
They're
to Lubec,
there.
Maine.
I mean, the New England Aquarium's there.
Yeah.
Looking at right whales all the time.
Yeah, it's
I'm
exciting.
sure he knows about it.
We've had a really great and productive dialogue with the right whale conservation community, because obviously it's a non-negotiable thing. I mean, we come along just as there's this sort of crisis is coming to a T.